All right, guys, thanks for coming into my office for Pastor Mark Reacts. Just so you know, I don't know what's going to happen in any of these videos, hence the Pastor Mark Reacts part. I don't see them beforehand. I don't prep anything. This is just me reacting and responding to the videos that one of our editors brings us. And so super thankful that you've been engaging with this. Hopefully it's helpful to you. Now we're going to watch a video on God from TikTok. Something.
So if God created everything, who created God? You want to do this? Okay, I was packing, see, because I'm moving, but we can do this. I'm just saying, if God created everything, then your God must be created too. Okay, imagine a fish in a fishbowl wondering where the gills are on a human so they can breathe in water. What are you getting at? The fishbowl is applying the logic of the bowl outside of the bowl where the stuff of the bowl doesn't matter. What? Okay, just follow me. God created everything. He created space, time, matter, the world, everything that's in it. If he created it, that means he's existing outside of it. And if he's outside of it, just like you're outside of a fishbowl, the stuff inside doesn't matter to him. So space, time, matter, everything that applies to us does not apply to God. Meaning he's not governed by having to be created like we were and everything inside the world is. He just exists always outside of space, time, and matter. He's always existed. He never was created.
Yeah, I mean, classic kind of faulty logic in people is just because something works rationally on this plane, this is what he's trying to say, it might not necessarily work once we plane up to different dimensions or whatever. So in philosophy speak, it's called physics and metaphysics. So you have like, we study the physical world, soil and grass and the way animals work or whatever, that's physics. But the word meta is the Greek word after or beyond. And it's like the question of God is actually a metaphysical question. So when you only say, well, here's the deduction of nature, and now I'm going to deduce things about supernature, that doesn't make any sense because it's supernature. It doesn't actually fit the same categories or follow the same rules as nature necessarily does. And so we need to be able to ask transcendent questions. But from the realm of logic, yeah, you don't, kids out in the playing ground, it's like, well, you say God created the universe, but who created God? Well, there's no evidence that God ever began to exist. Basically, the way it works is everything that begins to exist has to have a cause. So we know the universe began to exist 15 billion years ago. So we know the universe has to have a cause, but there is no evidence that God ever began to exist. So we don't have to say, well, who created God? Because he's the eternal thing that was never created, and there's no evidence that says he was created. So, and what I like about what he's saying, and one of the things we have to challenge ourselves with is when it comes to the question of God, of course, it's a category mistake when we constantly try to go, here's what God is, and here's how we think, and here's how God should think. Because it's like saying, what does the color yellow smell like? Right? It's like these are category mistakes for us to take all the same logic and say God has to function within the same logic that we do. If God is God and he transcends the physical world, then he actually doesn't probably need to follow those things. Where we start to bump up against our own logical limitations in a sense. And that's not to try to argue kind of God of the gaps or whatever. That's just to say, in the ancient world, see, the question of evil and suffering has become a far more prominent question in the last 200 years post-Enlightenment in the Western world than it was to the ancients. The ancients almost took the same posture of like, say, Habakkuk in the Bible or Job, where it was like, look, we are too limited in our understanding and our knowledge as people to understand what the gods are doing, to understand how it works. So don't go, okay, I'm suffering, ergo, what are the gods doing? We just go, whatever the gods are doing, I can't understand it. And so I'm just going to continue in life and do what I can do. And it's only since we started breaking through the realms of scientific discovery, educational, and we started to get a little more haughty, a little more kind of Tower of Babel-ish, to use a biblical image, that we thought we could be like God. And we thought we could answer all questions, that the question of evil and suffering and theodicy has kind of risen to the surface as like the main definitive categorical question of our culture, and it wasn't before. So that's kind of what he's talking about, and so the whole spirit of it is the humility of human beings as they begin to think about themselves and God and the way nature works, to actually have a humility and understand that God's not going to ever function by the same way that we tend to function. So, hey guys, hopefully that video was helpful to you. I would love to hear from you. Make sure you write in the comments the kind of videos you want me to react to, maybe in the vein of science and faith and whatever, or maybe in just pop culture, whatever your question is. I'd love to help serve you if I can, so make sure you post those. Hopefully you guys are doing well.